I've been following Pantheon Rise of the Fallen for a long time, since they first had their Kickstarter up. And there's a lot going on with this game, and I think you guys should be interested in it too, because this isn't a game that's sort of normal Kickstarter where it's like, well, we want to do this game, and then nothing comes of it, or it shuts down really in beta or shortly after release. I think this has some standing grounds. I want to talk to you guys about why. First off, I'm a big EverQuest fan. I love EverQuest. I played the original EverQuest close to launch, and the reason I loved it was it does what MMOs are supposed to do. It creates communities. And why was because of the gameplay mechanics that had in there. You weren't able to solo things that much. I mean, yes, you're able to solo, but not by that much. And so it forced you to group together and things like that. And I really like that kind of gameplay in my MMOs. If I'm going to play an MMO, I want it to be where I'm playing with others. If I'm going to play single player, I'm going to go play a single player game. MMOs are meant for players to work together. It's an interesting thing. And that's what I liked about EverQuest. And there's a lot more why I liked about EverQuest. But the reason I'm bringing up EverQuest is the fact that Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is taking its cues from the original EverQuest. Not EverQuest 2, but the original EverQuest. The whole entire idea about it is for people to group up and do things together. And they're taking it a step further. Now, a lot of this information I get is from Redbeard Flynn, who's another YouTuber that got into the early alpha access. And I've signed up to do the same thing, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed I get to go in and try this out and help them work on this game by finding bugs. Redbeard Flynn brought up a lot of things in his video talking about his gameplay. And this is what really got me hyped. What I liked about it is, yes, you're able to solo. You're able to solo like you were in EverQuest, where it's greens and blue mobs. You're able to solo anything tougher. You need to group up. And that if you pulled wrong, you could pull a whole entire group of mobs on there. And he actually shows this in his own gameplay footage of this happening. And I like that. I want that kind of thing. But he states something else that really interests me in this. And that is the fact that harvesting can be a group event. And that really interests me. They've apparently upped the health of harvesting nodes. So it takes longer to harvest. So you want to group together and work on these harvest nodes together to get them down quicker. And that's really good. And everyone's skills increase off of helping this out, which gives you a good benefit to helping your friend harvest that node. Now, granted, you may not get as much of the resources, if any. I hope you get some. The main thing is you improve your skill. So if your skill is really low and someone else is higher, I'm hoping they go this direction. Not guaranteed. I think it would be cool, but you could be a low-level harvester working with a high-level harvester, helping harvest those high-level things and slowly ticking up your skills. And I think grouping like that in gameplay mechanics would be a great thing, because then it's like the sidekicking from City of Heroes. It brings someone up to where they're able to do things that they normally couldn't do by themselves. I think some kind of system like that would be great. And that's what I liked about City of Heroes, was the sidekicking system and the way that they made more mobs show up in missions, or the mobs tougher when you were in a group. That's where, once again, I liked that MMO for that reason. With that kind of gameplay mechanic, I like that. The other thing I like about that is I'm searching for an online game where crafting and harvesting has a reason behind it. You see so many of these MMOs that have come out and these online games that come out where there's crafting, but it's a secondary thing. You can find better equipment through just doing quests and storyline stuff, and the crafter made stuff really isn't that good. And that really bums me out. It's like, what's the point of putting a crafting system in if it's not utilized? There are very few games where there's a crafting system in there that I've played where it stands for something. And those are Star Wars Galaxies was the first one. And that one, a majority of the items that you got that were of good quality were crafted by players. Another one is Albion Online. And then there's also a few others out there that do the same thing that I really haven't played around with, such as EVE Online. Having that kind of system in place is nice. And Redbeard Flynn brings this up, that the equipment he was using was crafted by players because it was just as good, if not better, than what he could find in the world. And I really, really like that. Now, if you were interested in following Redbeard Flynn, check the description down below for a link to his YouTube channel. He does a lot of stuff on EverQuest and other MMOs and Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. Going on top of that, with the crafting, they want the crafters to work together. So a crafter is not able to make everything. And that's really, really good. Look at it in the way of, let's say we take armor and someone's wanting some plate armor. Well, you're not just going to have that plate on your body. You're going to have some leather or cloth between you and that plate so that it's not cutting into you and things like that and causes some padding. And so that armor smith that's making the metal armor is going to need a cloth or leather worker to make the cloth or leather pieces. This causes the crafters to work together, and that really interests me. I like that idea. I'm excited for that idea. The other thing I like is the fact that there are mechanics in the world for exploring. And Redbeard Flynn showed this off in his video also of climbing mechanics. And yes, there have been climbing mechanics in MMOs. EverQuest 2 in the first expansion added climbing, but it was only specific areas. What I like that Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is doing, you can climb pretty much any cliff. Now, granted, you can't climb like the walls of a keep or anything like that, or a castle, and that's fine. But being able to climb natural things like cliff sides and things like that is really cool. And what really caught my eye, and I love seeing this, is you can jump chasms of a cliff. So you got this sort of like area where there's one mountain cliffside and then another mountain cliffside right across from you. You can run across, jump, and if you time it right, you can grab onto the side of the mountain or the other cliff and climb up in case you have sort of like a chasm area. And that's really awesome. I really like this, and the fact that when Redbeard Flynn showed this off, he showed his first attempt where he failed and the fall killed his character. And I like that. That causes consequences. That causes challenge. I like games that challenge me. I like games that have tactics where you have to work with your teammates and communicate. And that's what this game does. And Redbeard Flynn literally talks about that. And that's great. That's what got me into EverQuest. I made a lot of friends playing games like EverQuest and City of Heroes. I still talk to them to this day. I have great memories in those games. And this is like 20 years or more that this happened. And I still remember those things predominantly. Speaking of that, when we're talking about this, you're probably wondering about dungeons. And dungeons are not going to be instants. They're going to be public in the world. And that's really, really great. I remember playing in EverQuest, camping the flowing black silk sash and having so much fun doing that. And then I finally got myself one. And I went back to that area levels later to continue leveling in that area. And I actually came across a team that was actually camping the area. I asked to join in. And they said, well, no, we got this. We don't want to split up the roles. I said, I'm not here for it. I already have one. Check my character. I'm wearing one right now, and it was a legendary item. You can only have one of them, so I would not be able to loot it again. That group invited me in because I told them I just wanted the XP. I wanted to work on leveling up my character, and I made new friends through there. And that's really, really nice. That's what MMOs should be doing, is building communities, making everyone work together and not being able to do everything or a lot of everything. And that's really nice. And that's why I'm hyped about this. And the reason I believe that this will succeed is, one, they're in the early stages of alpha. The servers are not constantly up. They're working towards that. They're up for a little while to test things out, things like that, manage things, get stuff done. And that's fine. That's great. But it's because it's in that stage of alpha that I'm excited for this now. It's moving forward. And the graphics that you're seeing on the screen may not look the world's greatest, but this is alpha. Have you ever seen a prototype of a game where you're just checking to see if the gameplay mechanics themselves are fun? You're looking at cubes, spheres, cylinders, and things like that. And there's no real modeling being done because you just want to make sure that the gameplay mechanics are fun and the graphics don't matter at that stage. And I've done that developing many, many games for companies and myself. And so you build up after that. After you prove, okay, yes, this is fun, then you start working out the art and the look and the feel of the world, and you expand from there. They've got a good chunk of gameplay mechanics in, and it looks fun. It looks interesting and things like that. Now they're working on adding in, at this phase, more gameplay mechanics, expanding out and adding in more, along with mob locations and also graphics. And graphics are always touched up all the way till the end of beta. Along with beta is also your bug fix and enhanced graphics stage. Whereas your alpha is, let's get as much as the code in as possible, along with start creeping in and getting in those graphics. And that's the stage where Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is at. And that's the stage where I want to help out. And I'm very interested in, because this brings back good memories. This brings back the gameplay that I miss doing and love doing. I would be playing EverQuest from Daybreak's games to this day if they didn't, I would say, wowify the game, where they made it easier to solo. So there's no real reason for grouping unless you're doing dungeons or raiding. I miss the need for grouping outside of that and just doing regular world stuff. But what they're adding on to that in the crafting and the harvesting and things like that excites me so much more. They are really building out, in my mind, an MMO in the way that they were meant to be made, where players work together. Because when players work together, that builds the community. And when you build a community and you build a good game, guess what? You got a hit on your hands. And if they keep up with the way Daybreak Games does things, whereas as long as it's making some profit, they're happy. It doesn't need to be a blockbuster hit. It doesn't need to hit WoW's numbers or things like that, where it's tens of millions of people playing it. That would be great. That would be awesome. But they're not expecting that. And they know that. They know that this is more towards the hardcore gamer and not the casual gamer. Now, you may be asking, what's their plan on making money off of this? And so their plan is to do a slight free-to-play with purchase of the game and subscription. And I know that sounds confusing, but I really like this idea. So let me explain it to you fully. The way they're planning on working this is up until level 5 or 10, they still haven't decided, maybe even 20, you can play the game for free with some limitations. This allows the player to try the game out, see if they like it, and get a good feel for all of the content. That's a smart move. That is a good marketing move, because then it's try at no financial risk, only a time risk. And that's good. And then if you like it, you buy the game. Then they're going a subscription model way of doing things. I like this. And the reason I like this is with subscription model games that are solely subscription, nothing else. Their focus is putting in good quality stuff. Their focus isn't on, oh, we need to do this play to win, or we need to only sell the stuff that looks really cool on the pay for cash items and stuff like that. This allows for them to create a variety of different looks, a variety of different things, and let the player choose what they like, and having no extra added cost. Yes, you're paying that monthly fee of whatever they decide it is. Last time I remember playing a monthly fee, it's $15 a month, and that is well worth it, because they're taking that money and they're going in and they're adding more to the game. They're creating expansions that you would buy, or DLC that you would buy. And that works out great. And that allows them to add more classes, add more races, add more worlds, and things like that. Not do this small piddly stuff that you're seeing a lot of MMOs do now, where it's like, oh, we'll add a new quest. Oh, we'll add more stuff to the pay cash store. Oh, we'll add this small thing that doesn't look that great, but is kind of thing. And that's a real bummer. I don't like games that monetize that way. I don't enjoy them as much, because then all their focus is on the microtransactions and things like that. Whereas subscription, they're focusing on the whole entire thing. They are focusing on the fun. And the reason they're focusing on the fun and keeping you playing is to keep that monthly subscription going. That's their focus. And that's why I like subscription-based over the free-to-play with microtransactions ways of doing things. So that's where I also have more faith in Pantheon's Rise of the Fallen. But what I'd love to see, and I hope they look into, is doing sort of the sidekick system. And there's a reason for that. There's several times in my life where I've gotten busy and haven't been able to play the games as much as I'd like to. I'm unable to keep up with my friends who have more free time to play the game. Adding in a sidekicking type system like City Heroes did allows you to play your low level or highest level character you have with your friends who are higher level. And that would be awesome. That would add more to the game. And that would be great. That would build a stronger community, because then you're not freaking out going, oh my god, I can't play as much as my friends. Oh, I'm gonna drop the game then because I can't play with them. I'm too low level. I was planning to play with them and move on to another game. That would be out the door. You'd be able to go, oh, I'm going to jump on my low level character, I'm going to get sidekicked by my friends and play with my friends. Now, they don't exactly need to do this, but it helps. And the reason it helps is a lot of people think that I'm 2 level, I'm low level, I'm unable to help out my friends. I'll tell you now, that's BS. That is wrong. And I learned this in EverQuest. The reason being is I would play a character that would be their banker. They would go out and they would camp this area where it would get them a lot of money. And all this money was in copper. And in EverQuest, money has weight. And so they would be unable to move. I wouldn't do any of the attacking. Because if I attacked, that mob would come to me, instantly kill me. Not my job. My job was to sit there, wait for them to kill the mob, they'd throw the money onto me, and then I would teleport back and be bound at the bank. And at the bank, I would turn that copper into plat, making it lighter weight, and then I'd travel back to where they were camping and divvy out the platinum. And then they would tip me for doing this service. And while doing this, we're all sitting there chatting, having fun, and goofing around. So that whole entire idea of you have to have a side-kicking system to make a good, strong community, in my mind, is BS. It just helps out. It makes it so that you can be in the action if you're an action-oriented person. I'm all about communities. I like hanging out and goofing around with people more than anything else. Keep an eye on Pantheon Rise of the Fallen because this is going to be a really good game. It's going to be fun, it's going to be interesting, and I can't wait for it to come out. The link to their website is also in the description down below. I want to know from you guys, are you guys interested in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen based off the information I just gave you, or have you heard about it before? Comment down below, let me know.